Hello, today I want to talk a little bit about differences between America and Europe in a very general, broad sense. I'm from Canada. I'm currently in continental Europe. I haven't traveled a bit around Europe, but I haven't been everywhere. And before I get into a few things, I just want to say there's a lot of videos out there from like very young, rich, suburban, or rural white Americans talking about how they're experiencing all these European crazy things, but really it's just that they've never traveled outside of their town their whole lives and have lived at home and have never stayed at a hotel or traveled on public transport. So they think it's like only Europe that has hotels and trains and buses. So I'm not really going to talk about that, but I just want to sort of get into the idea that I've gone to a whole new place, and therefore everything that's different must be a reflection of everything in the whole, usually of the United States they're talking about, because the Americans don't acknowledge that there's other countries in North America. So yeah, the whole of the United States only does things in a certain way, apparently, and then the whole of Europe does things in a different way, even though they've only maybe gone to like a Kontiki tour, which is 7 days long. So that's not accurate, obviously. A lot of the things that they say are only in Europe also exist in America, but they just haven't experienced it yet because they're children. So, so yeah, I know there's a lot of like reaction videos where people address the specifics, so I won't get into that. Um, Basically, yeah, the way that hotels work, the way that bars work in different places is just different depending on where you go and how much you pay. And that's like international sort of situation. Um, the things that I have noticed, having been abroad for the whole of my 30s, and then recently going back for a few months in Canada this last year, a couple times, is you kind of forget the things that really are actually different and sort of everywhere. A lot of them are food things, so I won't get into all the food things. And also, that's obviously regional. It's hard to describe like what Canadian food is. I was born in Vancouver, and there's a lot of really good Asian food there. And that was the one thing when I was living in Australia, going to Melbourne or Sydney. I was like, oh my god, this is like home food because they have really good Asian food also. Um, so Vancouver has a lot of 3 out of 5 star sushi places, and then a few very good ones, which are very expensive or moderately expensive. And so many good Korean spots, Thai, like Malaysian. It's got all the types, all the different ones. Any Asian that you can think of, food wise, you're gonna find. There's also some nice Greek and Italian places, or more traditional like American food. meaning like bar food, like steak houses or whatever, supposedly French influenced or Italian influenced fusion. I don't know, whatever. So there's a lot of food stuff. But one thing, which for sure is a real thing, is the coffee with cream. People in Europe are not putting cream in their coffee. They just aren't. I've mostly spent time in the UK, Spain, Italy. So if you're from somewhere that does the coffee and cream thing, please let me know. I know that in some places in Asia, like in Vietnam or whatnot, they do like the condensed cream, like the canned sweet cream. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about 18 to 20% fat cream in your coffee, which you just get offered everywhere all the time, like it's normal. And it's so good, but it's like obviously not healthy, which is also a theme. Um, I'm not going to talk too much about America specifically, obviously, because I'm from Canada, but I have spent time in America in different places, so I know that the different places are different. And obviously, it depends on your budget, how it's gonna, how the experience is gonna be for you. Um, Another food thing. You get the food things out of the way. There's so many, but I'm just gonna talk about a few. Brunch as a meal. Brunch as a meal in North America is like serious. I remember in Australia they were like, "We do brunch," and it was like, "No, you don't. No, no." Just because you can get a mimosa at breakfast doesn't mean it's brunch. I'm talking chicken and waffles. I'm talking omelets. I'm talking like, and not like a little bougie like French omelet, like a massive 5 persons worth of food, eggs, with potatoes and toast on the side. Like too much food, way too much. Unlimited coffee. Like it's just brunch is like a big meal. You really are combining. If you're doing it slightly more responsibly, which brunch is not about responsible eating, it's about gluttony. You're combining your what amount you would eat for breakfast and what you would eat for lunch in together. So you're eating 2 meals worth of food if you're doing it correctly. I mean, you can get your eggs Benedict or whatever if you're being like, me, I'm on a diet, meh. No English muffin, please. I'm gluten free. Yeah. Also, some of the bread is like super shit here. In Canada, I mean, not as bad as America. Okay, and it depends where you go. You can obviously go to good bakeries and get whatever. Um. So yeah, brunch. The other thing, pumpkins. I'm talking orange jack-o'-lantern Halloween pumpkins that you eat. You just can't really find them here outside of the very end of October, places who are trying to now do Halloween for some reason. And they don't eat them. And they're so good. Pumpkin seeds, hello. Pumpkin soup. Oh my god, so good. Not really into pumpkin lattes, but I know that is a thing. Okay. But they do also, like, in the UK and English speaking places, call squash pumpkin. And then at first I was like, oh, you have pumpkin? And then I'm like, oh, that's a butternut squash or acorn squash, or it's usually the two. They don't really have a variety of squash. I think squash is from North America, so that probably explains that. And then the only last food thing I'm going to bring up, because I was working for a mixed group of people who were mostly German and American. If you go to Spain and you want a paella, you have to order it by the person. It's usually a 2-person minimum because it's a big thing that takes like 45 minutes to make properly. And for some reason, this lady was convinced that like this was like a trickery in the menu, trying to like make it seem like it was less expensive than it is because the price is per person. Because you can get a 2-person paella, you can get a 5-person. Like, how many people? That's how big it's gonna be. Anyway, I was trying to explain like, no, this is how it's priced everywhere in Spain. You have to get at least 2 people. I was like, why didn't they put the price then for 2 people? It's like, because maybe it's 3 people, maybe it's 4, like, and it very clearly is like, this is per person, 2-person minimum. If you don't like it, don't get it. I don't know. That is a very specific example that no one talks about but me, but I just want to put it out there. If you're going to get paella, it's going to be priced per person. They're not trying to rip you off. That's just how it is done. And the paella is going to be much more subtle than the version of paella that is made in North America. So just beware. So that's all my food things. I want to talk about gastropubs or sports bars. So in Canada and the US, definitely any major town is going to have at least one, if not many, sports bars. Some of them a bit more fancy, high end, some of them a bit more dirty, sort of, what do you call that, dive bar sort of style. But there will be an obnoxious amount of TVs on every surface, every wall. There will not be like any wall without a TV, like a big TV. And often they'll be like, if it's a big enough place and it's not like a really big specific sports day, like the playoffs of whatever, there'll be more than one thing. So it'll be like the basketball is on this one, and the golf is on this one, and the hockey is on this one, and the gridiron football is on this one, and like it's very schizophrenic. It's loud. It's very noisy. Like, I love these places, but when you get unused to it, and you come to somewhere like chill, like in Spain when I was watching the finals of I forget if it was the Euro Cup or what it was, and there was one TV for the entire bar, and so everyone had to like crowd around and like look over people, and it was like probably not like for sports. Like, I just don't think that sports bars, there's not many of them. I think in the UK you get a bit more, but even those ones where it's like clearly they support a certain team, a certain football club usually, then there is usually only like 2 TVs, like one behind the bar or near the bar, and then like one other one, maybe 3 if it's like a long weird shape. But they definitely all play usually the same thing. It's not like there's 3 different games. Like, you can, and yeah, if you get a bad seat where you can't really see, then it's too bad. Buy the, I don't know, ticket or something. So there's that. If you're like really into watching sports at bars, and you're from like Canada, the US, and then you move to Europe, you will find, if you can find a good sports bar with like enough TVs for your liking, then hold on to it, because they're few and far in between. So that's that. What else was I going to talk about? Oh, this has been talked about before. Narrow country roads. The UK is really bad for it. Other places are like this too. And to be honest, you do get it in Canada, but it's in places that are so sparsely populated that the chances of there being traffic issues or even another car are so small. But basically, yeah, these narrow country roads, if they're paved, wow. Sometimes it's just like the two ruts where your wheels go, and they like barely fit your vehicle. And they're two-way, and they barely fit one vehicle. So it's, I guess they were built for like donkey carts, and they just never got upgraded. I'm pretty sure that is actually what happened there. So yeah, just roads in general being narrower, especially in older cities, because they literally were designed for donkey carts. Australia was great, fresh breath of fresh air because their roads are like American-sized roads. In Canada, we don't spend as much money on our roads. Even the big highways in places are like, you could have added a little, but they're just so long, and it's just a lot. So if you're going across Canada on the number one highway and you get stuck behind a slow RV or something, you will be stuck behind them because there's not a passing lane for a while. So yeah. But that is just only slightly as annoying as the only having one lane and then there's someone coming at you and you're both like this. And you kind of just got to decide who is going to reverse until there's an appropriate pullout, which is barely a pullout. And then you're going to be about this close, passing each other. So yeah, the streets, pumpkins, I already talked about. Oh, one last thing. I'm not going to get into all the details, but a lot of places that have old housing have old style plumbing, electrical, stairs, walls. So it really depends on where exactly you're staying. But one thing I found very annoying is the hand wash basins with the cold tap and the hot tap separate. And I think people grow up with it, so even modern fittings sometimes do the cold hot. Like you've replaced the sink. You could have just got one combined. But you were like, no, why would I have one when I could have two? So what the fuck? Anyway, yeah, so that, I don't like that. Also some of the old style showers, we have to like turn on the hot water and like there's a whole like 50-step process to get the shower to work properly. I don't know, pull a crank, there's a string, like I don't know, it's just a lot. On top of that, in warmer places in Europe, like in Spain, and I imagine in southern Italy, I don't know, it was only in northern Italy, the laundry situation. Everyone's drying their clothes all the time on lines or on those horrible little horsey things. Australia and New Zealand was very much also like that because they're warm and so they don't like to have dryers. But the thing is, you can have a dryer, and some people do, and those people, amazing, because who wants a crunchy ass towel that's been dried on a line and now has this like fold from where it's hanging and it's all crunchy and crusty and sort of like, if it's not really a warm enough day or it's humid, it kind of gets like this everything has a musty mold smell now. Yeah, I don't know. I just miss having a dryer for my clothes. But sometimes you do get a dryer. Like some places in Australia, people did have dryers, and I was like, wow, that's great, amazing. Even if it is like you put it up, you dry it most of the way. Okay, hear me out. I'm not like just trying to use electricity for no reason. But then for like the towels and sheets and stuff, just put it in the dryer for 5 minutes. Just get that little fluffy, nice. Mm. Plus, you don't have that like childhood experience. You get the like fresh sheets out, and you just like bundle in them, and they're like all warm and nice. Right? I'm not the only one who did that. Also, these warm places, Australia, New Zealand, I'm talking to you too here. Yeah, I get that it's mostly warm, but why don't you have like a working heater? Hmm? You if it's 10 degrees Celsius, I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. Um, you can put a heater on. You know, you can do that. That's fine. People are always like, "What do you mean you're cold? You're from Canada." And I'm like, "Yeah, but inside is always warm in Canada in the winter. Unless you're too poor to heat your house, which does happen. Um, inside should be warm when outside is cold. That's how houses work. I grew up with wood fireplaces, and in the winter, you'd have a bunch of wood. Every once in a while, you go chop some. In the afternoon, you put it in or maybe in the morning, depending on how cold it is and if the power's gone out. You know, you build a little fire in there. The whole house is like nice and toasty and nice. And then you don't have to wear 5 sweatshirts just because it snowed. You know? People are not prepared for cold weather in warm places, but I guess that makes sense. Buildings collapse, people get pneumonia, they don't have snow plows. Vancouver's very bad for that because it doesn't snow very often. And so if you get more than 1 centimeter of snow, the whole like city shuts down, and it's just very embarrassing. Anyway, that's my very, very long rant about nothing.